conversation about should money means business. As we always say in business means money. Stability and business mean a lot of money. There are everyday changes and developments taking place on the local scene in Egypt, all over Egypt actually. New deals taking place, new discoveries, new development projects that are being expedited or inaugurated, and this is what we're going to be talking about, what's happening in Egypt this week in relation definitely with the international arena. And we have with us our guest, Engineer Shereen El Naggar, international transport consultant, who's going to be honoring us with his presence tonight. Hello, sir.
Good evening to you.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure having you.
It's all my pleasure.
And we'll go for a short break, after which we'll be starting our talk. So stay tuned to us. Don't go away. We're coming back in a moment.
Lieutenant General Osama Rabia, head of the Suez Canal Authority, confirmed that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's inauguration of the Martyr Ahmed Hamdi el-Shamli tunnel as part of a series of development projects in the Canal and Sinai region is a new addition to the various transit axes linking Sinai to the homeland. He added that the series of giant tunnels at the bottom of the canal has shortened long hours of the crossing journey from the east of the canal to its west and vice versa, as the time for crossing the tunnels does not exceed 10 minutes, stressing that the tunnels are designed to take into account the highest international safety and security standards. A number of Egyptian contracting companies affiliated with the private sector are considering participating in the implementation of an infrastructure project in Rwanda before the end of this year, at an estimated cost of nearly $40 million. Official sources said that the current year witnessed the entry of nearly 6 major contracting companies to work in Africa in a variety of infrastructure projects, housing and roadworks, adding to the Democratic Republic of the Congo's acquisition of the largest share of the volume of contracted development projects, with business volume exceeding $4 billion. A few days ago, the General Authority for the Development of the Economic Zone of the Suez Canal handed over 40,000 square meters to a German car manufacturer, which it will use to establish a logistics center for the distribution of cars in Al Ain al-Sukhna. Engineer Yahya Zaki, head of the Economic Authority, confirmed that the project went through many negotiations until it succeeded in establishing a logistics center that includes a storage yard for cars, a spare parts center, and a maintenance workshop, and it's expected to be operational within a year. China's central bank has pumped 120 billion yuan into the banking system in an attempt to anxiety over its biggest real estate company's $300 billion debt crisis that has roiled the global markets. The company said it has negotiated with the bondholders a plan to pay interest due on September 23rd on local yuan bonds, adding that it will pay interest on its bonds due in 2025 with an interest rate of 5.8%, and the amount owed for the coupon was the 232 million yuan. Automakers around the world lost $210 billion in revenue in 2021 due to the chip and semiconductor shortage crisis caused mainly by the coronavirus. The crisis worsened as automakers depleted their stocks and other industries had no more to stockpile. Automakers are beginning to warn that problems are spreading and may cut third-quarter profits. The UAE Central Bank stated that the United Arab Emirates economy will grow 2.1% this year and 4.2% in 2022 as the country recovers from the slowdown caused by the emerging coronavirus crisis. In its quarterly report, The UAE Central Bank said economic activity in the country continued to recover in the second quarter, with growth almost reaching pre-COVID-19 levels. The U.S. Federal Reserve kept the current interest rate unchanged within the range of 0 to 0.25%, thus enhancing employment and price stability targets. U.S. Federal Reserve Chairperson Jerome Powell said it was very important that Congress raise the federal debt ceiling in time, and no one should assume that the central bank can fully protect the economy or financial markets if the United States defaults.
We're back again to Money Means Business with our guest, Eng Shereen El Naggar, international transport consultant. Welcome, sir, with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, a lot of changes every day take place, and different deals, different development projects and all. And today, with new oil concessions, how do you see that?
Positive, very positive. If there are, according to the newspapers, they're talking about 7 or 8 new concessions, which means that there is going to be activities in 7 or 8 sectors of the Western Sahara and Western Mediterranean. That means that there's going to be a lot more people employed, means a lot more people coming into Egypt, a lot of equipment, business is moving. Most important is that the result we are hoping is going to be a very good result. We expect to see more and more oil and gas. This will cement our status as the East Mediterranean oil and gas hub, which of course is positive to the Egyptian economy overall. It might take some time, but it's, I mean, it's not a switch of a light bulb, you know, it does take time. And but all the effort is being exerted, and I think it is definitely very positive towards the Egyptian economy.
Definitely. So also there have been lots of inaugurations by President Sisi in, let's say, the transport world or the shipping world. How do you see that? Would you highlight this?
Well, if we look at any new inauguration, any new project, should be viewed positively, and it should be viewed with a lot of optimism. However, we need to be very careful when building up new projects that we do not overlap with existing businesses, with existing projects, that instead of providing more business, adding value or adding business to a certain sector of the transport industry, we in fact deprive an existing sector of a part of its volume. This is very important. We need to be sure that when we are building new container terminals, for example, that we are adding volume to the container flow in and out of Egypt or the transit business, rather than depriving or taking away a part of the existing business from one container to another. Then you're competing with yourself rather than competing with the outside world. This is a very delicate subject that we need to be very carefully addressing, and we need to study it very carefully. The addition in itself, the project in itself, is a definite plus, it's a definite positive addition to the economy. But we, as I say, we need to be extremely important, we need to be extremely conscious as to not to create a competition situation between two national or Egyptian-based companies.
Definitely. Well, would you please elaborate on the London International Shipping Week? You always participate, and your participation this time, your focus, and what was the focus internationally speaking?
Well, on the London International Shipping Week, the focus was on the private sector's view of what is going on in Egypt over the past few years. And to summarize, the speech about Egypt was that For the past 60 years, Egypt has been poorly managed. We had a lot of problems. We had a lot of political turmoil, wars, economic crisis. And then come 25 of January, we had another problem with the regime that was not quite fit to run Egypt until the 30th of June, revolt once again, and it was highlighted during that conference, that speech, the wisdom of President Adli Mansour, who took over a country in flames, basically, with all sorts of problems, economic problems, social problems, and with his wisdom and his tactfulness, he managed to at least put out the fires and hand over power to current President El-Sisi, who has focused on rebuilding what has been destroyed and rebuilding a country to become a national and international power, economic power in the world, in the region and in the world. I have to say that yes, the president is moving in a very fast pace. I mean, I don't think in any country in the world you'll find that inside 2 or 3 years you get 7,500 to 8,000 kilometers of new roads, and he has basically tackled every aspect of the society, and he is doing that willingly, but even unwillingly he will also have to do that because we are far behind. Yeah. And we have to jump, not run. We have to jump in order to catch up with the technological standards, with the educational standards, with the health standards that are set worldwide. Mm-hmm. All the new projects in every corner of the country demanded a very efficient and modern transportation network, yes. Be it roads, be it rail networks, be it airports, be it ports, and every aspect of transport needed to be added and enhanced in order to cope with the various excavations, offshore, as you just said, or mining in the Golden Triangle or in Abu Tartur, agriculture in places like Farafra, which is very remote, new places like Owainat. There is a lot of going on, and without a very strong, efficient, modern transportation system, none of this will ever survive. And in fact, it was mentioned that transportation is basically life, and life in every sense of the word. When you have human beings, life to them is transportation of minerals and oxygen through the blood. If the blood flow drops or the blood pressure drops, the person dies. And if the transportation network in any country is inefficient, the economy dies. It is as simple as that. So what we have been doing, what we have been seeing the last few years, definitely there has been a lot of development, and we are still a long way from being what we deserve to be. But I think the administration is heading forward to the right, into the right target there. Well,
you mentioned before that. Well, we have a lot to offer in the shipping world, and you know, all the services that have been built in order to do that, and with the Suez Canal and more. But then, you like, all that is not really well known to the other side of the, internationally speaking. All the services that we can extend to them are not really they're really fully known. So how to make them know that like the types of services that we have, what we can present in this sphere?
Well, if we look at what is happening in Egypt today, not many people or not many authorities in the world know about it. And this is a shortcoming on our side.
Okay.
And this has been a chronic problem in this country for quite a number of years. And it is not exactly typical of the current administration, but it is chronic for years and maybe even decades. To give you an example, and I mentioned that several times before, when before the inauguration of the second phase of the Suez Canal in 2015, the International Chamber of Shipping delegation was visiting Egypt, and they had no idea of the magnitude of the project. And the comments were that what they have seen is an engineering miracle by all standards.
And nobody knows about the miracles.
Nobody knows about that. And that is the problem. We are always behind with international PR. And that is extremely important. Because if people don't know what you have or don't know what you are doing, they won't come here.
Yeah.
Local problems still need to be ironed out. For example, we need to iron out the relationship between the various port owners or port authorities, in the sense, I mean, you have certain ports are owned by the Ministry of Transport, certain ports are owned by the Navy, certain ports owned by the Suez Canal Economic Zone. There has to be harmony between those ports. We still need to have a body, and I call upon His Excellency the President to form the body that will govern the regulations on all the ports, because they are all in Egypt.
Yeah.
And we cannot come to a port like, for example, Abu Qir, and be charged X amount of money, and then when we have to go to Alexandria, we have to get charged a different kind of money under a different tariff, or there are certain regulations that to be followed here are not to be followed there, or this kind of miscommunication between the ports, or rather misunderstanding between the various ports, only creates a bad image. It reflects negatively on the maritime transport services sector in Egypt overall, which is not the case. I mean, the maritime transport sector in Egypt is developing, and there's a lot of additions, but we need to harmonize our thoughts. We need to be all talking the same language, and as the British say, all dancing to the same tune. What is happening at the moment, unfortunately, we don't have a standard tariff that will govern all the ports. We don't have port regulations that will that all ports will be abiding to. This is one thing. On the oil side, that is even a more difficult situation, because the oil ports or the offshore service ports, during the past decades of offshore exploration, we have always been exploring in coastal waters or short or shallow waters. And the exploration for shallow waters does not require large service ships, because there are service ships, service boats rather, that they will move between shore and the rigs exploring offshore. And the shallow water exploration is totally different from deep sea exploration, which we have started now. I mean, you're talking about the fields of Noor or Zohr or certain other fields that are currently under exploration. These are all deep sea explorations. The equipment involved, the size of the ships, the size of the drilling rigs, and the size of the equipment used, the size of the ship supply boats and the service boats and the anchor handling boats is completely different, much bigger. Unfortunately, the oil ports or the oil services ports are not built for that, and this demands a definite and immediate development of these ports, because without that we are going to be spending a lot more money than we should for using a lot more smaller boats than using one big boat, so we can use 4 small boats. So the cost is going to be higher, the running cost is going to be higher, the cost of hire will be, or the chartering of the boat will be higher, the cost of the running the boat will be higher, the fueling of the will be higher. So why should we throw away good money after bad money? That is a concept that we need to reconsider in the Ministry of Petroleum.
Well, we go for a short break. After she'll be coming back. Stay tuned to us. Don't go away. Back again to my news business with our guest, Eng Shereen El Naggar, and a lot to talk about still in the shipping world and the transport. Well, the 675 projects, we talked about it before, but the developments, what is it again exactly?
The 675 project is a project which actually focuses on developing Egypt and creating one of the world's, if not the world's largest maritime and commercial maritime hub in the world in Egypt. Egypt qualifies for that in view of its geographical location, in view of its extensive manpower, in view of the developments that are taking place. Of course, the target is 5 years, and it can be shrunk to 3 years, and this can be achieved. However, there are still a few obstacles that need to be ironed out in order to be in a position, first of all, to attract proper investments and serious investments into the maritime sector.
But you said, we have to just, have a very good PR and advertising what we have.
Well, that's one of the things, of course, that is that we are. That's a shortcoming in Egypt, that we do not have strong international PR. That's one thing. But also there are a few readjustments that need to be taken care of locally in Egypt. As I mentioned, the tariffs between ports and the harmony and the business plan. We need to set up a strategy of a master plan of all Egyptian ports. What is the Egyptian port? Why am I building the port of X, for example? Is that port going to serve that certain part of Egypt? Is it going to be a transshipment port? Is it going to be a dedicated port? And what kind of a character of a port is it going to be? Am I going to make a landlord port out of it? In other words, the government will own and then lease it out the facilities, or is the government own and operate? There is a lot of definitions, a lot of, you know, what I would say, a lot of parameters that need to be properly explored and properly handled in order to say, okay, fine, I'm going to build up a port, say in Rosetta. That port in Rosetta is going to be an export port for gas, or but it's going to be dedicated for the gas that is coming from, let us say, Aphrodite field in Cyprus. Or is going to be a big gas storage facility, or am I going to develop a new oil hub in El Arish to be able to cater for the port, the oil coming from Iraq? This kind of thing, we need to be more defined on what we are going to do with our ports, and what exactly are the ports serving, in order to be sure that those ports do not start competing with one another, which is a very serious drawback, because then instead of competing with the outside world, we will be competing with ourselves. For example, you have Piraeus today. They are building a massive hub, container hub, and unless we are absolutely well prepared for it, and we know that we have 3 government-owned container terminals, these are the national-owned container terminals, how can we combine those container terminals, how can we bring those container terminals together or individually in order to confront a threat like this? Because that threat is risking taking away part of our business, out of our existing business. Another idea is that how can we build up more infrastructure that will serve inland places in Africa, for example. How can we link between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea? Egypt is a junction. Egypt is a hub. How can we do it? How can we serve places like Libya efficiently? How can we serve places like Sudan efficiently? How can we go all the way down to Somalia, to Djibouti, to East Africa, where there's a lot of business in East Africa, and we are not able to lay our hands on it properly because of shortages either of handling facilities or the shortages of freight. And the same goes for Caucasian countries like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all those former Soviet Union Caucasian states, all these ports, all these countries, there is plenty of potential there, but where are we? We cannot reach out for them. So we have to define a policy. How can we use our existing equipment, our existing container terminals, for example? Why shouldn't a container terminal become a complete logistics provider? I handle containers, I handle trucking, I do railing, I do feedering, I do logistics overall, I deliver door to door. Even if you're, if for example you're sitting in Uzbekistan, I am calling in Damietta as a carrier. Through that Damietta call, I can come to Damietta and say, okay, Damietta Container Handling Company. And that's, for example, I'm not saying they can do that, or they would do that. Yeah. I would say, Damietta Container Handling Company, I'm coming to Damietta, I'm transiting cargoes all the way. Can you do, what can you do for me? Then I can come back and tell him, oh, wait a minute, I can take the cargo over where to Azerbaijan, I can take the cargo to Uzbekistan, I can go to the Black Sea, I can go here, I can go there, and I've all got my own infrastructure that will help me do it. This is the real potential that we have. We need to develop our business, we need to develop our integrated business. There has to be integration in all the businesses. Yeah. In the past, there used to be a ship owner is a ship owner. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care about what happens land. Or if the container terminal only handles containers, it doesn't do anything else. Not anymore. Not anymore. And you see today the mega carriers, they are coming into a port, they own the container terminal, they own or have a concession over the container terminal, they do the logistics, they do the agency, they do the forwarding, they do the trucking, they do the railing, they do everything. Okay, fine, that's a carrier. But why shouldn't I take this service as an Egyptian? If it's done on my land, why shouldn't I do it? And I'm perfectly qualified doing it. What we need here, something very, very important, is training and training and training.
Okay.
And I do not refer to training as taking a book and reading a few chapters and then taking an exam. That is not training. Training means that you go in and put an overall on and you go on site and you go and dig into how the trucking is done and you do it yourself. And then you start from scratch. You start from the bottom and work your way up. Then you become a manager.
Like an internship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You must have a proper practical education.
Yeah.
This is something we are lacking in Egypt, and this is and there's nothing shameful about that. This is something that we are lacking in Egypt. Maritime transport overall, multimodal transport as an industry has developed very fast over the past decades, and over the past couple of decades, unfortunately, Egypt was sitting behind because of the domestic problems. Now domestic problems are over. Let's catch up with this and build up a hub. This is the first step of building up an Egyptian world hub. The second the second thing is that how can we bring in the various businesses to an integrated network that will confront the world, to tell the world, okay, listen, this is an integrated Egyptian transport network that does railing, that does ports, that does logistics, that does the whole lot. And we have properly trained people, and this is the focus of Project 675. And if that is achieved, Egypt can become the world's largest maritime transport hub inside 5 years without any problem at all.
So this is one part, and the other part also is, as you said, developing a strong public relationship, with the other parties, and explaining to them what we have.
Well, you see, if you are building up a project like this, if you are building up focusing on something like this, then automatically, as a part of your focus, you have to focus on international PR. And unfortunately, the only international body, or the only body that deals internationally with many people, is the Suez Canal Authority, because they got ships coming up and down all the canal all the time, and they have to communicate with people. They communicate with them. They have their circulars, they have their website and everything. This does not exist with the maritime transport sector, or the transport sector overall, or the transport sector services overall. And this is what we are really seriously lacking.
What do you suggest here? It's like, since they are in charge of that, would they just, amass from the different parties what they have in order to be able to, have a good PR?
No, what we need to do to develop a PR is we need to pick up from where we left in 2016, where we had Maritime Egypt conference in 2016, in February 2016. We need to pick up on that and keep it on a regular basis. When you invite people from overseas and they come over here, they stand there, okay, you don't sit there and inside lectures and see presentations and movies. No, we take them across to, you want to see what the Suez Canal is doing? Here is the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is digging another...
Field trips.
Exactly, field trips are very important. Field visits are very important. Okay, if I am a bulk carrier operator, for example, operating a bulk carrier owner, take me over to places where Egypt is exporting phosphate. Take me over to places where Egypt is exporting cement. Then I would know, when I want to book my ships, I would come up over to the Egyptians and say, oh, wait a minute, Mr. XYZ exporting cement. I have a ship in position. What do you think? Or I tell my brokers, contact this person, contact that company. They are exporting phosphate from Safaga or exporting from Adabiya. If I'm a tanker operator exporting phosphoric acid, we are exporting a lot of phosphoric acid. This is a very sophisticated kind of cargo and very, very corrosive. It needs to be very carefully handled. Only a few ships in the world can handle this kind of cargo. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, fine. Now I know this this owner, invite him over to come and see what we are doing. Come and visit the phosphoric acid plants. what we are doing, the output. This is what we need to do. We need to invite people to come over to Egypt. Unfortunately, we are restricted at the moment because of this COVID pandemic problem, but this is not going to last forever. I mean, everything has an end. I think eventually we start. But it is essential that we have an international PR body that will answer questions also in the embassies. If I'm sitting, let's say, in Hamburg, and I can pick up the phone to the Egyptian embassy, hey, wait a minute, what is the draft in the Suez Canal Authority today? Or what is the Suez Canal doing today? Is the Suez Canal open or something? He can, with a push of a button, find out what's happening in the Suez Canal and answer on the phone immediately. That is the kind of thing that we need to do. Information, knowledge is power.
Definitely.
And we need this power, we need to develop this power. This is something we are lacking. Otherwise, manpower we have, geographical location we have, development we have. Okay, we're still a bit behind, but we're getting there.
We do have everything.
We have it all.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't everybody in the world know about it?
Exactly. With the small things that should adjust the whole business.
Exactly. What we need is fine-tuning. And as one of the consultants has been saying, give me good regulations, give me regulatory laws, I will give you billions back. And we're not talking about millions, we're talking about billions.
Yeah.
Today, I would imagine that Egypt can be earning multiples of what it is earning today out of both the Suez Canal and the Suez Canal Economic Zone.
As you said, with just fine-tuning.
Together, with fine-tuning.
Yeah.
That's what we really need. And this, again, of course, because it's a full government, and because we have various ministries involved, because we have various authorities involved, from my seat here, I would urge His Excellency the President to consider more being involved in the preparatory or in the reorganization of this section, because I know this is going to be a bit of a headache to start off with, but the end result to Egypt and to his personal satisfaction as somebody who is killing himself in the service of his country, no, this is definitely going to pay back, and it's going to be pay back very well.
Definitely, definitely. Well, also, talking about the worldwide freight markets. What should we just know about that?
This is it's actually a disastrous situation. Well, not disastrous for everybody. It is, of course, a rose garden for the owners. Some owners are enjoying very high freights, which they have never seen for many years. I mean, bulk shipping, for example, since 2008 has not enjoyed the rates they are enjoying at the moment. Charter rates have climbed from $5,000, $6,000 a day to topping $25,000, $30,000 a day in some sections of the bulk shipping. Container shipping is also booming like there is no tomorrow. This boom is expected to last until the end of 2022, according to analysts. Of course, you never know what would happen. Tankers are maybe slightly lagging behind, but now with certain OPEC decisions, with the Iran crisis, with all sorts of political things, oil especially is very sensitive to politics, and that is why oil tankers are lagging behind. But generally, there is an economic boom worldwide, and as much as it is very helpful and very profitable to ship owners, it is damaging a lot to cargo owners, to shippers, because if I talk about an exporter, for example, who is moving cargo between China and Europe, in a year ago he would be moving a 40-foot container at maybe $3,500, $4,000, $5,000. Today it is topping $16,000. So his profits are either shrinking or his prices are either increasing in favor of shipping. There is a crisis in shipping. Air traffic is also booming, but the boom is generally expected to last, to serve the ship owners for a while, for at least 1 year, but not serve the shippers also for the same period of time.
Definitely. Well, like all that with the different, developments and whether positive or negative on the scene here and internationally, stock markets mostly dropped Friday as traders closed out a volatile week for global equities by booking profits amid renewed concerns over troubled Chinese property developer Evergrande. Evergrande's silence over an interest payment that had been due Thursday fueled investors' angst over the potential fallout from a collapse of the property company.
Economist Mohamed Al-Arian confirmed that the concerns about the Chinese real estate company shakes the main principles of the issue of global investment. In his statements, he indicated that the crisis was not close to repeating the collapse during the global financial crisis, noting that the uncertainty surrounding it undermines the assumption that governments will always intervene to save the financial sector when a major player faces a crisis. Stock markets in Asia and Europe witnessed a sell-off amid fears that the company would be unable to meet its obligations, with the company suffering from debts exceeding $300 billion. It is believed that the stock markets will be tested during the next few sessions due to the crisis. The largest Chinese company, which is on the verge of bankruptcy, announced that it will pay interest on a small part of its debt, but this did not reassure the financial markets, which are waiting to see if Beijing will come to the aid of this special group. A report said that the company will repay 232 million yuan of debt maturing Thursday on these bonds at a rate of 5.8%, limited to the internal bond market. One of the analysts considered that the announcement of the partial payment will help, and it is hoped that it will somewhat reduce market volatility and decline. But for confidence to really be promised, the market has to see the prospects of restructuring the company. But the Chinese authorities did not clarify whether it would help improve the financial situation of the company, whose 1.4 million homes are still unfinished, to the dismay of many who bought these properties. The owner of the company assured his employees that it will soon emerge from the darkest stage. He said that all construction workshops would resume work and that the group would provide a response to buyers, investors, companies, and financial institutions without giving any additional details. Despite the announcement of the payment of that interest, it was not enough to reassure the markets, as the stock exchanges recorded a decline this morning after a 4-day hiatus due to an official holiday. In a move that indirectly reassures markets, the Chinese central bank injected 120 billion yuan into the banking system in an attempt to calm the anxiety caused by the debt crisis of the largest real estate company, amounting to $300 billion and causing turmoil in global markets. Chief economist for Greater China and North Asia said that enhancing liquidity by itself would not be enough to solve the company's crisis. He added that the market hopes to reach a plan that will help the company to restructure and refinance in a smooth manner. In any case, it must be ensured that the Chinese government will not allow the company case to turn into a full-fledged financial crisis.
We're back again to My News Business, and Eng Shereen El Naggar, in order to just give a prescription overall for the to go right and do things the right way.
To do things the right way, first of all, we urge and we plead with the president to get his aides or instruct his aides to reconsider the structures of the various bodies and the relationship between the various bodies. And I'm talking about shipping, of course, and transport, which is my career. But with that, he will enhance, it will speed up a lot in getting Egypt on the track and getting Egypt to become really the dream he has realized.
The hub.
The hub. The president has actually at one conference mentioned that his dream is to create a major maritime hub out of Egypt.
Yeah.
And a comment was said thereafter that the president can dream to his heart's content, no matter how high his dreams become. The ceiling of his dreams is way, way below the potential of his country. President El-Sisi is sitting on top of the richest country in the world by far. And one other analyst, he says the Egyptians are very unfair, saying that the dust of their country is gold because the dust of the country is diamond.
So, well, we do have it here. We can do it even better. And not only the sky is the limit, Egypt's potentials are limitless. And that should be done the best, taking advantage of the best way we can. Thank you very much, Eng Shereen El Naggar, for being with us. Always a pleasure having you.
It's always a pleasure being here.
And always a pleasure being here with you. And until we see you again next week, well, God bless Egypt, God bless Egyptians, God bless our president, our army, our white army, and our police. And as we quote from the Holy Quran, enter Egypt, God willing, safe. ادخلوا مصر إن شاء الله آمنين. And from the Holy Bible, Mubarak, Sha'bi, Misr, blessed be Egypt, my people. I'm Nermin Nazim signing off. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye for now.